Breaking news here from the Tampa Bay Stream Center, everybody. Florida officially in a state of emergency as of 5 minutes ago. Governor Ron DeSantis issuing an executive order declaring a state of emergency for the state of Florida for counties in the path of Hurricane Dorian. We now have the 5 o'clock advisory from the National Hurricane Center here live on Tracking the Tropics. Hey there, everybody. News Channel 8's JB Buno here with you live on stream again for Tracking the Tropics, and joined again by Storm Team 8 meteorologist Ian Oliver. Ian, let's get right to you. We're going to go over the details of Governor DeSantis declaring a state of emergency, what that means. We're also going to be hearing from Tampa Mayor Jane Castor in a little bit later on around 5:30, but I want to go to you for the latest on this 5 o'clock update from the National Hurricane Center.
Good evening, everybody. Yeah, we just got it in a little bit early, the latest information from the National Hurricane Center, and unfortunately the news not great, especially for folks watching here in Central Florida. Still many more changes and updates to come, but this one is showing Hurricane Dorian a little bit stronger this evening with maximum sustained winds now up to 80 miles per hour. Pressure is at 997 millibars. Its motion is off to the northwest at 14 miles per hour. So if you were watching our earlier edition of Tracking the Tropics, we were showing you how that center of circulation was going to pass just off to the east of Puerto Rico. That's exactly what we saw. We saw the center there start passing through the Virgin Islands, and there we go. Yeah. Okay, a little tighter look. That is the Doppler radar from San Juan, and there is that tight inner core. And this has been a fantastic tool for us to be able to actually see this system with Doppler radar. You see that inner core. It's about 15 to 20 miles wide. And now that we're seeing that inner core well-defined, stronger, the system is showing little hints. It's trying to develop an eye, and once it does so, that's when we can see Hurricane Dorian continue to strengthen, and that is the forecast from the National Hurricane Center. This is a new track, a complete update from the National Hurricane Center coming at 11 a.m., 5 p.m., and every 6 hours. The other ones are intermediate updates that come during the 3 hours. That is just a positional update and a strength update. This is the latest cone showing intensification. Friday afternoon, 105 sustained. We're at Category 2 at that point. And from there, that's where we start to see a major hurricane where it maintains that intensity. Unfortunately, it looks like just east and north of the Bahamas, and then eventually moving towards the east coast of Florida. Now, you look at the size still at day 4 and 5 of that cone of uncertainty. There is still some debate here among the forecast models. I'm coming to a little bit better agreement with the 12Z models today. There is still some uncertainty long-term, though. You notice how much real estate is included there on Florida's east coast. The possibility increasing, though, that a powerful major hurricane could strike the East Coast somewhere along there. Something to point out with this storm, though, and it's in the latest update from the National Hurricane Center. Right now, we've talked about the compact size of this storm. The hurricane force winds only extend out 15 miles from that center of circulation. Tropical storm force winds extend out about 80 miles. So this is very compact in size. Because of that, the exact track is going to be extremely important, and who sees big impacts and maybe who sees little impacts or none at all that are included in the forecast cone right now. So you can expect that cone to move. Unfortunately, this latest update was slightly south of the previous update, taking it towards that east coast of Florida. But pretty good agreement in the short term with our spaghetti plots there, forecast models. You see a bit of that divergence towards the end. So it's too soon to say where exactly this would move towards, but we're coming, unfortunately, into a greater likelihood here of a powerful hurricane impacting the east coast of Florida by the end of this holiday weekend. In fact, it would be like Sunday into Monday where we would likely be seeing those impacts. A couple things to consider. We've been talking about these little dry air. The system's finally been able to overcome all that. There's been plenty of it over the last few days that really had it looking pretty ragged. You look at that satellite presentation now, though, and it's looking a whole lot healthier. Still that upper low. It's weak, but it'll have some influence on the storm over the next day or so. We'll see how that interaction takes place. It's really the strong ridge of high pressure that's off to the north of the system, though. Subtropical ridge. All the global forecast models indicate that ridge will be strengthening, and that's the agent that really shoves this storm off to the west. How that goes, when it goes, how strong and sharp that turn to the left or to the west is, that's going to determine where from north to south this thing actually approaches the coast.
I want to get here to, again, if you're just joining us here on Tracking the Tropics, everybody, Storm Team 8 meteorologist Ian Oliver breaking down the fact that Hurricane Dorian is projected to again reach hurricane or Category 3 status, potentially hitting the east coast of Florida, and that's what is written here in the state of emergency issued by Governor Ron DeSantis a short time ago. Again, if you're live with us here on Tracking the Tropics, this was minutes ago that Governor DeSantis issued this state of emergency for counties that could potentially be impacted by Hurricane Dorian. Hear his quote. Today, I am declaring a state of emergency to ensure Florida is fully prepared for Hurricane Dorian. It is important for Floridians on the East Coast to monitor this storm closely. Every Florida resident should have 7 days of supplies, including food, water, and medicine, and should have a plan in the case of a disaster. I will continue to monitor Hurricane Dorian closely with emergency management officials. The state stands ready to support all counties along the coast as they prepare. So a lot of the language here from Governor DeSantis, Ian, is a lot of it is about the East Coast. He's telling East Coast counties especially to be prepared for this storm. And that's what we're looking at here with Hurricane Dorian. It potentially could be hitting the East Coast, but as you've been reporting here on all of the issues or all the editions of Tracking the Tropics, this storm still could take a turn at any moment.
Yeah, I would suggest everybody is prepared at this point, or be making your preparation today, tomorrow, the next couple of days. Just be very vigilant. We'll be tracking this very closely. The thing with this storm, it could move all the way across the peninsula. Of course, once it moves on shore, it loses a little bit of its intensity. But of course, this thing could move directly across the peninsula. It could find its way into the Gulf. It could still stay off the East Coast. There are still a wide range of possibilities regarding the long-range path of this system, but it's unfortunately, as I mentioned, coming into a greater likelihood at this point of a very strong, perhaps major hurricane impacting the east coast of Florida. This is the visible satellite imagery, which of course when the sun goes down we'll start losing that. You notice that bubbling that's occurring just off that far eastern tip of Puerto Rico, about 30 miles northeast of that eastern tip. That's where it's trying to develop first little vestiges of an eye. We showed you on radar that well-defined inner core. That's where we'll likely see it, and once that develops, of course, that's a sign of intensification, and from there, that's where we could really start to see Dorian become significantly stronger. We've talked a lot over the last several days about the hurdles, everything against this storm that it was facing in terms of the land interaction that happened with St. Lucia that completely disrupted the center of circulation. It's been surrounded by dry air. There's been a little bit of wind shear. All those factors at this point kind of starting to fade away. It's moving into a lower shear environment. It's moving over very warm sea surface temperatures, and its forecast path in the Atlantic is actually off to the east of the Bahamas. So we're not really talking about much in the way of land interaction between now and a possible landfall on the east coast of Florida. So these are all inhibiting factors, and they're all hitting the brakes, unfortunately. So that's what's really going to allow this system to continue to intensify at this point, JB.
Yeah, Ian, do you think a lot of people are asking if we could see the path again for the storm? I think we can bring that up here if we cycle through our weather computers to get you back to, again, the 5 o'clock update. Now, the 5 o'clock update is when we get more significant graphical information that we can actually show you here live. We have the intermediate updates every 3 hours, and then we also have the major updates every 3 hours after that. So we're going to try to get you here back to the path of the storm. The projections, again, according to the National Hurricane Center in their 5 o'clock advisory. Again, we're just kind of cycling through our graphics to get to you exactly what's going on here. Actually, I think that our computer is in the process of updating right now, so we will, I believe there it is. I think we have it right now, Ian,
okay,
as these statistics and as these graphics are now loading. Okay, so let's go here full screen, everybody. Actually, you know what? Let's, just so we can see it a little bit better, let's bring us on camera here. Okay. It looks like, if I'm reading this correctly, according to the latest advisory, Ian, that was Category 3 shortly before landfall. If it makes landfall, maybe Sunday potentially? So.
Yes, Sunday into Monday is the time frame at this point, which unfortunately, I'm not sure what we have going on here with the.
We're loading up our weather graphics here, everybody. So stand by. As again, we're looking at the latest models that are, still coming in and updating on our computers at this moment. So everybody, this is what happens when we're live here and we're going through a lot of this information as it is coming in Again, the 5 o'clock advisory coming in a short time ago. So this is all new data within the last several minutes here on Tracking the Tropics. So, okay, I think we now have the path of the storm here, Ian, right? So
that's
that
it.
looks
Yep.
like Sunday afternoon, right off the east coast of Florida, potentially, if things are lining up the way that they might line up. Sunday by 2 o'clock, it says there, 115 mile per hour sustained winds off Florida's east coast Sunday afternoon. So we're looking at maybe us actually seeing this storm's arrival on Florida's east coast. We could see rain, as early as Sunday morning?
It's looking that way. And yes, like I wanted to point that out. I pointed this out in the earlier edition. Each day, you're going to see that cone get smaller and smaller and smaller. The average forecast error each day is about 40 miles. So you have to multiply that into the future. We're talking about day 4 and 5. So you might be looking at that cone and you say, wow, we're talking about Jacksonville and we're talking about Miami as possibilities. We have seen a bit of a windshield wiper effect with these forecast models. They're a little bit south. The next run comes in a little bit farther north. So what we want to see is not only the forecast models agree, that's very important, but we also want them to agree consistently. So several model runs in a row showing the same solution. When that happens, forecast confidence goes up significantly, and then you'll start seeing that cone get smaller and smaller and smaller.
Here are those spaghetti plots, again, that show different various models that all claim to show which way that they think the storm is going to be going. I know that we have some real weather fans out there that follow Tracking the Tropics pretty religiously, and they know that they are certain fans of particular models. But as we advised in our most previous edition of Tracking the Tropics, the spaghetti models represent certain models that may be consistent in some years, more reliable in some situations or with some particular storms, and not as reliable in some others here. Again, we are waiting for our computer here to update, and once it does, you'll be able to see the spaghetti plots kind of go across the screen here. But Ian, how much should we take into account these spaghetti plots and what we're looking at here? I mean, we have one of when it animates, there it is. One of these is going all the way into the Atlantic. You see that one there to the right. I mean, that's just one
it's
model.
an outlier. It's an outlier. But again, just like we were talking about with our global models, each one of these individual models, those eventually start coming into better agreement. And once they do so, that all adds to the forecast confidence. That's the dry air, that little upper low we've been talking about. It's going to have some small influence on this system. But again, it's been pretty remarkable to see Dorian over the last few days in an environment where it was completely surrounded by bone dry air in the Eastern Caribbean of all places. It's been able to sustain itself. It's run into adversity, of course, as it had its low-level center disrupted with St. Lucia. Now this is the most impressive we've seen it. Obviously, it's now a hurricane that's been upgraded since 2 o'clock when it was first declared a hurricane with max winds around 75 miles per hour. This is the point in time over the next couple of days where we're really going to see this thing likely ramp up a bit as it enters an environment where it can be healthy. This has basically existed in the presence of everything a tropical system does not like. Now it's entering an environment that is going to be much more healthy and ripe for development. So unfortunately, you can expect to see that over the next couple of days getting stronger and stronger.
One of the questions that we've had asked to us a lot, Ian, and it's, we don't have a crystal ball here, folks, as talented as the meteorologists are here at Storm Team 8. They cannot see into the future. But one of the questions we've been asked repeatedly is whether or not we're talking about a system here that could potentially reach Category 4, Category 5 status. We have it right now in this latest 5 o'clock advisory, which came down right around the time Governor DeSantis declared a state of emergency here in Florida. We have it as still a potential Category 3 before making landfall. Any chances, what are the chances that we see this maybe intensifying towards a Category 4, Category 5 at this point? We can't look that far into the future, can we?
There's always a chance. I mean, this graphic here is showing you one of the reasons why. We talked about a lower shear environment. Now we're talking about sea surface temperatures, which are favorable from here on out. Essentially, the entire path of the storm is over at least slightly warmer than average sea surface temperatures, which is, of course, the gasoline for tropical systems. That's where they get their energy, is those warm sea surface temperatures. It's a ripe environment. National Hurricane Center, and you can see it in their forecast, bring it up to about a Category 3 storm, which is, of course, a major hurricane, and then kind of just maintain that intensity somewhere around that Category 3 strength. Is it possible that it could get stronger than that? Sure. intensity forecasting is significantly more of a challenge than track forecasting. And you're seeing with this storm how much of a challenge this track forecast has been. I do think over the next couple of days, we're going to start to really get a much better grip on where the system is heading. All that information that gets pulled into the forecast models will help be more and more accurate.
All right, everybody, listen, we're here live on Track in the Tropics. Storm Team meteorologist Ian Oliver. I'm WFLA Now's JB Buno. We're here live with you on stream. We are doing a crazy juggling act right now between television and digital, and I'm actually getting the sign right now that we got to prepare for TV. We are not going anywhere on this stream. We're going to be leaving up this stream so that you can chat amongst yourselves here on Track in the Tropics. But you might have seen it scrolling on the bottom of your screen. Tampa Mayor Jane Castor is going to be with us live on Track in the Tropics at 5:30 Eastern, so 23 minutes from now. She's going to be joining us here live, everybody, where you can interact with her in a live Q&A. You at home can get out your phone, join us on Facebook Live. In the comments section here, you can ask questions to the mayor about Hurricane Dorian. Again, as this latest projection came out from the National Hurricane Center showing that we are potentially in for quite a good amount of precipitation, at least in some parts of Florida. We don't know where exactly Dorian is going to be hitting just yet, but it's all about being prepared, right, Ian? It's all about being ready, and we're going to be asking questions to Tampa Mayor Jane Castor. So join us live at 5:30, everybody, for that live Q&A. Again, the questions won't be coming from me. They'll be coming from you at home, asking on the device in the palm of your hand. So for Ian Oliver, I'm JB Buno. We will be back in about 20-plus minutes from now with Tampa Mayor Jane Castor. Thank you so much, everybody. We'll see you soon.